Hi, this is Dr. Karen Becker, and we're going to discuss MCTs today. Medium-chain triglycerides have become really popular as the word spreads about the benefits of nutritional ketosis for pets, which is the state in which your dog or cat is successfully burning fat as his primary fuel source. Historically, dogs and cats in the wild were naturally in a state of intermittent nutritional ketosis as they feast and fasted during their hunts, which means not every single time a dog or cat went out to hunt were they successful. So during those periods, they would enter into the natural metabolic state of nutritional ketosis to fuel their bodies. Many functional medicine veterinarians and human doctors are now realizing that burning fat as a primary fuel source is metabolically the least stressful approach to managing many, if not most, of the chronic diseases that we see in veterinary and human medicine, and using exogenous MCT products to assist in intentionally creating health by converting their patient's fuel from sugar to fat. Medium-chain triglycerides, or MCTs, are a special type of fat that is primarily extracted from coconuts, coconut oil, and palm kernel oil. Obviously, where you source it from is really important, so you want to make sure that it's environmentally sustainable and orangutan friendly. There are 4 types of medium-chain fats. C6, or caproic acid, converts to ketones or fuel very quickly, but it tends to cause digestive issues and smells and tastes really unpleasant. In my opinion, like jet fuel, even after processing. C8, or caprylic acid, is the most ideal MCT as it converts to ketones within minutes and is odorless, flavorless, and easier on the digestive tract. C8 is the most valued and most expensive MCT. C10, or capric acid, is less efficient than C8 in converting to ketones in the liver, and because it's much more common than C8, it's actually less expensive to produce. This is the type of MCT that's found in most commercial brands. C12, or lauric acid, is very abundant in coconut oil, but lauric acid really doesn't function as a true MCT. It behaves more like a long-chain fatty acid, and C12 is more difficult for the liver to absorb and break down into ketones. As a general rule, shorter-chained MCTs are more readily converted into ketones, which are the energy molecules that are created by your pet's liver from fat. Ketones are the ideal fuel source for cellular mitochondrial function because they burn cleanly and produce far less reactive oxygen species, or ROS, and of course ROS is what's responsible for damaging cells. And so this really clean fuel source doesn't do that to the extent that sugar does. Remember, there's up to 15 times more mitochondria in your pet's brain, eyes, heart, and reproductive organs if they have them. So these body parts really benefit from this super fuel. This past year, Rodney Habib and I have traveled the world making a documentary about the dog cancer epidemic, and we interviewed the top metabolic PhDs, oncologists, and scientists about the best way to turn off abnormal cell replication, which is cancer. And I'll never forget Dr. Dominic D'Agostino's response to us. He said that the difference between a dog burning carbohydrates, or sugar, and burning fat is the difference between, let's say, fueling your high-end race motorcycle with inefficient diesel, which would be sugar, or choosing a high-octane race fuel, which would be ketones. Most importantly, cancer cells prefer sugar. They don't burn fat well, so offering them fat is a no-brainer if you have a pet dealing with cancer. Some people think that coconut oil and MCT oil are actually interchangeable, but that's not the truth. MCT oil is far more concentrated in medium-chain fatty acids than coconut oil. Coconut oil is about 14% MCTs. Now, coconut oil is a great source of high-quality fat, which means energy, especially it's rich in lauric acid, and lauric acid in and of itself can have some immunomodulating benefits, so that's wonderful. If you want to offer your pet MCT oil, my recommendation is that you go with C8, or caprylic acid, as it converts to ketones much more rapidly than other MCTs. And of course, it's flavorless and odorless, so it can be easier for your pet to consume, but also easier on the digestive tract. Look for a product that contains a very high percentage of caprylic acid. Many MCT oils on the market these days are 50-50 blends, so they blend C8 with C10 because C10 is cheaper. So a lot of the products you'll see contain actually very little C8 because it's the most expensive fat. Also, of course, look for a product that contains no trans fatty acids and that has not been genetically modified. In general, the oil that you buy should list the exact type of MCTs included, or don't buy it. If it just says MCTs, don't buy it. And that goes for the slew of commercially available, now entering the market, ketogenic diets that are kind of flooding the market. Remember, a ketogenic diet is high fat, medium protein, and ultra low carbohydrates. So adding MCT oil to regular dog food, which is actually what's happening in the pet food industry now, doesn't mean you're feeding a ketogenic diet. You're feeding a carbohydrate-based diet with added ketones. The same thing is true for these new ketogenic kibbles that are flooding the marketplace. They're ultra high protein with added fat. That's actually the definitions of the Atkins diet, not a ketogenic diet. And all that protein that you're feeding, high protein, high fat, protein can actually be converted in your pet's body to sugar in a process known as gluconeogenesis. So it's hard to believe that you can make sugar from protein, but it's absolutely possible. So don't be fooled for all of the trending marketing tricks right now. When you see that word ketogenic diets, you have to really do your homework. Caprylic acid, MCTs, go directly into your pet's liver and bypass normal digestive processes, including bile secretion and the demand for pancreatic enzymes, which is awesome. So it doesn't tax your pancreas or your pet's pancreas. The liver then converts the MCT oil into ketones, or these water-soluble energy molecules that the body can use in place of sugar. This is one reason I love using ketones as a fuel for debilitated dogs, because it is really feasible to feed this diet to animals that have had their gallbladders removed, because it doesn't require bile for the digestion or absorption of ketone bodies, which is really nice. The ketones that are naturally produced in the liver from triglycerides or supplemental MCT oils are released back into the bloodstream, where then they travel around to your pet's brain and through her body organ systems for fuel. Because MCTs are water-soluble, they also have the unique ability to pass right through the blood-brain barrier to supply your pet's brain and eyes with this amazing fuel source, and other fats can't do this. Studies show that ketones are actually the preferred fuel source for energy for the brain, but especially for pets dealing with cognitive decline and potentially other neurologic issues. The introduction of ketones into the brain can help rescue the brain cells that have lost their ability to utilize glucose efficiency. And this is where the science becomes really exciting. The more we learn about the therapeutic benefits of ketogenic diets, or ketones replacing fuel for your dog's body, the more excited I get. The human research is clear that this nutritional strategy is incredibly beneficial for controlling refractory epilepsy in kids, Alzheimer's disease in older people, but also type 2 diabetes, obesity, and many autoimmune conditions. This last year, I've introduced the ketogenic diet to pets suffering from very similar conditions, and I've experienced the same unbelievable results. It's actually been life-changing for me, career-changing as well, to witness the power of a properly fueled pet in terms of what they can achieve in terms of disease recovery. So I feel really obligated to talk about it, because I'm convinced that the dry pet food industry is not going to discuss it. You have to remember that the average bag of dog or cat food is about 40 to 60% carbohydrates, and they are not going to change those formulas now. The good people at Keto Pet Sanctuary have been studying the effects of ketogenic diets on stage 4 cancer in dogs, which is, stage 4 cancer means that there's metastasis, and that's really the challenge in treating dog cancer, is not primary tumors, it's once the tumors have spread to other parts of the body. And Keto Pet has had astounding results. In fact, the results have rattled the veterinary oncology community from around the world, because their success rates of slowing, stopping, or reversing cancer is actually much higher than the average standard of care for all types of cancers, sometimes double digits higher, using fat-powered nutrition as a powerful adjunctive therapy. I have started to implement the ketogenic diet in many of my very sick patients with equally impressive results. Now, of course, you need to partner with a keto-proficient veterinarian or a qualified pet coach to help you through this process. And it's actually initially quite a technical process. So I can't recommend that you just buy MCTs or any exogenous ketone product and dump it on your dog's kibble and call it a day. But I can tell you that deciding to investigate the ketogenic diet for your dog or cat with chronic disease is a great idea. And the more that you will learn, the better choices you'll make as a guardian. We've had the luxury of having the Keto Pet team themselves provide the step-by-step how-to part of our DVD on preparing a ketogenic diet for the dog cancer series. Now, it does take a little math. You also have to have some pretty strong boundaries, because there is a component of caloric restriction, and you have to buy a little bit of equipment, a glucometer or ketometer, to make sure that your dog or cat is actually in ketosis. But it's completely feasible, and it's a really great, common sense, powerful approach to managing disease without toxic interventions. And in many cases, it's proved to be the only thing that has successfully helped manage many of these debilitating diseases. Now, if your vet has never heard of the ketogenic diet for dogs or cats, trust me, you will be the learning curve. And what I mean by that is that if you've already followed some advice on this site before, you're probably already used to being the beacon of new information for your conventional veterinarian that isn't necessarily following up on some of these latest trends, especially when it comes to unbiased nutrition research in the pet space. So just an FYI, veterinarians fear the word ketosis. I mean fear, because all we learned about in veterinary school was a condition called diabetic ketoacidosis, or DKA. DKA is a life-threatening, toxic metabolic state of high blood sugar and high insulin. Nutritional ketosis is not that. Nutritional ketosis is low glucose and low insulin. So it's the exact opposite, and it's really important that your veterinarian understand that. Remember, dogs can burn glucose or ketones, one or the other, but not both. And we don't advocate both. In fact, adding ketones into a glucose-filled dog is like adding race fuel into a diesel engine. You will have engine failure and almost immediately. So you must first convert the engine to run on a brand new fuel source, and then you fill the tank. Now, some old school veterinarians may also tell you that dogs can't go into nutritional ketosis. And the truth is, there were some, I think, 2 flawed studies about 30 years ago that demonstrated dogs eating unlimited calories from protein and fat did not produce ketones. Well, we know now that part of the reason that those studies failed to show that dogs entered into ketosis was because the ketogenic diet comes from calorie control and the other part comes from restricting protein. And both of those things were not done in these studies. So those outdated studies have long been replaced with the information coming out of KetoPet. KetoPet and their top-notch team of veterinary oncologists, human oncologists, as well as PhD researchers have proved to the entire veterinary community that dogs can and not only do go into nutritional ketosis, but that this beautiful physiologic state is incredibly beneficial for a myriad of health conditions, including some of the most impossible conditions to treat in veterinary medicine. Interestingly, they were the first people to pursue this as a means of dietary intervention. Believe it or not, Science Diet actually holds a patent on a ketogenic dog food, but it's buried. I had to look far and wide for it. I'm assuming the reason Science Diet did not pursue a ketogenic diet is, I don't know why, but my assumption is that probably the last 50 years of their carbohydrate-based dog foods, which carbs break down into sugar, would not blend well with this brand new theory of nutrition. They would have to explain why 50% of their nutrition is coming from sugar. So the carb-based pet food industry will break the $20 billion sales mark this year, and I don't think that the industry has any intention of changing the paradigm to improve the cancer stats. So unfortunately, despite the fact that some dry food companies hold patents, I don't think that they're going to produce truly ketogenic foods because they'd have to explain why they produce the foods that are currently on the market. So then the question becomes, when would you use an MCT oil supplement for my dog or for a sick patient? Well, I've used them in many different clinical situations over this past year. But I most consistently use them when I want to increase the raw materials for more ketone production or more energy from non-glucose sources. And this can be great for managing a bunch of conditions besides cancer, including lymphangiectasia and other types of IBD, certainly aggressive cancers, refractory seizures, and GME, as well as other autoimmune and neurological disorders, as well as canine cognitive dysfunction, which we also call old dog brain or doggy Alzheimer's. The best advice I can give you is to partner with a functional medicine veterinarian that is not only excited about fresh foods, but excited about what KetoPet is doing, what Pause for Change is doing, really excited about partnering with you and learning how to help convert your pet from primarily a sugar burner to a fat burner. It's called being fat adapted. Now, I know it may feel like an uphill battle. You're going to have to do your research. Chances are your local veterinarian will know nothing about this, but veterinarians are out there. More and more of them are super excited. KetoPet gets dozens of calls a day from brand new veterinarians wanting to learn more about how to institute nutritional ketosis as a very powerful tool. I do want you to know that we are absolutely making a big dent in the poor quality animal feed grade, carbohydrate laden processed pet food industry. We're making a dent. And the more empowered pet parents that decide to never feed those foods again means, of course, not only healthier pets, but also a whole new generation of educated pet parents that can inspire other pet parents to make the same life-changing changes in the diet for the animals in their care.